there, this is Tim, the Shitty Movie Reviewer, bringing you another shitty review. Today I'm going to take a look at the movie Jack's Back from the year 1988, starring James Spader, who's had a pretty solid movie career, going all the way back to the 1980s, which is awesome classics as Pretty in Pink, Mannequin, and Wall Street, flowing right on through into the 90s with Stargate, Wolf, and the classic Crash. And not the Sandra Bullock one either, this is the one with people getting into car accidents and getting off on it. Brought into the year 2000 with another serial killer movie with Keanu Reeves called The Watcher, the S&M Secretary movie, and he was also the voice of Ultron in the Avengers movie. More recently, he was Robert California of The Office. It also stars Cynthia Gibb, who is, I guess, the female lead. She's not quite the love interest, because she's pretty much it's dissed through the whole movie. She kind of did mostly TV movies. The only other movies that I saw on there that jumped out at me was Short Circuit 2 and Jean-Claude Van Damme's Death Warrant. The movie is directed by a guy named Rowdy Herrington, who is responsible for the Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse.
Here's your burger, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I need another $1.25.
Is that right? Keep the change. Roadhouse.
So the synopsis for this movie on IMDb is as follows. It's a serial killer in Los Angeles celebrates Jack the Ripper's 100th birthday by committing similar murders, and only one has a chance of stopping them.
There can be only one.
Sounds pretty cool. It's a good serial killer tale, and I always like those. I know they're freaks and all that, but it's always a interesting, bizarre tale. But anyway, this movie though, everything that happens, all the murders, happens before the movie even starts, minus one. Aww. The movie starts on the day that the police suspect is going to be the final murder, the Jack the Ripper copycats. And they were all running around like crazy.
And an entire city was paralyzed in fear.
There's a couple of recognizable faces in there, Chris Mulkey being one of them, but that's about it. And then, meanwhile, way across town, we get introduced to Mr. Good Guy, John Westford. He's a medical student, so I don't know if he's really, but we're going to call him Dr. John anyway. And that's James Spader, who's volunteering his time for the homeless while at the same time being late for his work at the clinic, where he's actually probably supposed to be helping out those very same homeless people. Only this time they have, actual medical emergencies, but whatever. When he does finally shows up, we're treated to a slight altercation. What happens is there's a female patient in there being ushered out by two other doctors who are explaining to her why she can't get an abortion. One of the doctors, also John's boss, who I swear is not sinister looking at all. When I first saw him, I thought it was like a Fraser Crane Freud mixed with Hannibal Lecter type, which makes sense because he's played by a guy named Rod Loomis, who happened to play Freud in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So he's being pretty stern with this woman and rushing things along, and as this chick is leaving the clinic, she kind of locks eyes with Dr. John there, and there's a moment of recognition, which everyone sees of people, the fellow doctors, but he's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. That's kind of glossed over. We know it's there, but it's glossed over. The other doctor that's with her, the nurse or whatever he is, doesn't really ever really specify, but he's kind of that, like, the big, slow, and awkward type, and he kind of hits on one of John's co-workers, this woman named Chris, and everyone around them gives the awkward, oh, I'm not listening to this. Chris gives a very polite no, and a big, slow, and awkward guy kind of gets a hint and walks away. Oh, and the weird part is, his name is Jack, by the way. Now, then quickly we get to meet John's boss, the sinister guy. Well, he doesn't look sinister at all, but anyway, his name is Dr. Sidney Tannerson, and he pretty much tells John that he needs to show up at work or he's fired. John kind of bitch slaps him right in the face and goes, fine, fire me, I don't need to be here, I can walk out any time. That happened, and then he's just like, can I go back to work now? Sure, why not? So, more about this woman, Chris. Is she a love interest? Hell no, because you'll see. It's like Jack, nurse guy there, wants to ask her out. She says no, because she's more interested in Dr. John. But it seems like the doc realized that they actually literally have the same hairdo. Sure, she has got it longer in the back, but it's the same haircut. And instead of hooking up, John wants to go home and look through old photographs.
Look at this photograph.
But of course he has a purpose, though, because there's a plot and everything. So he's back home checking out his pictures, and we as the audience peeking over his shoulder, checking the pictures out. And he's just, tossing them aside, looking one after another, and all of a sudden the camera kind of lingers on one in particular. And it's a picture of two little boys, twins, blonde hair. I don't know why. It's just, why would he have a picture of twin boys, blonde hair, just like his own blonde hair, but whatever. But that's not really what he's looking for. But then he digs further in, and boom, he finds it. It's a prom picture.
Look at this photograph.
And who's his guest of honor? Yes, that's right, the girl that was denied an abortion. And right then and there, he decides something's not right. He needs to go check on her because he is Dr. John, and he is awesome. So at the same time, though, now we're in this woman's house, and her name is I'm not really sure what her name is. I didn't get it. But anyway, we fly over to her house, where she already has a visitor, a man with a doctor's bag, offering to help her out with that abortion. And why wouldn't you get that abortion from someone who just showed up at your house in the middle of the night? And, well, the suspense was killing me. Who would be the person doing this? Luckily, though, it was solved mere seconds later, if you couldn't tell already who it was. John shows up right in time to find his former prom date dead on a couch and someone in the kitchen. He picks him to see Jack's back as he's washing up bloodied instruments. He sees John. He tries to explain that it's an abortion gone wrong. It's just a total coincidence that this was the day Jack was supposed to strike. Well, the Jack, copycat. Small scuffle and scoop. A small scuffle ensues. Jack flees. John follows him just in time to bump into a neighbor, which I'll call witness number one, while he's covered in blood. And all he says to the guy is, "Oh, you gotta call the cops. There's been a murder." So we get a little Fast and Furious road chase, which ends when John almost crashes into someone else, another witness, and loses Jack. So what John does is he heads to the clinic where he works to call 911, but before he can fully explain what the hell's going on, guess what? Jack's back at the clinic too. He begs, he tries to explain to John what the hell happened, but John is like, "Dude, you still gotta call the cops." And this obviously does not sit well with Jack at all, so he obviously does the logical thing. He kills him and makes it look like a suicide. Now, what? Plot twist. Now get ready. Spoilers, major spoilers right here. So if you don't want to hear them, just stop listening now. John all of a sudden wakes up in bed. And you're like, what? Was that a dream? What? Hold on. Then you're like, wait. That's not John. He has a friggin' earring. At that exact moment of John's death, the supernatural, that power that all twins possess,
Twin powers, activate!
wakes Rick Westford from sleep. John's estranged brother, twin brother. Dun dun dun. He looks out his window and sees a police car, sirens blaring. Well, kind of. The movie is very quiet. Very quiet. It's like got no score at all except bad 80s generic score. But anyway, the supernatural twin power
Twin powers, activate!
tingles again, and he knows that his bro, it's his bro dead, is his brother, right across the street from where he happens to live. So Rick shows up on the scene just as the Barney Miller looking police force are wrapping up a press conference congratulating themselves for solving the Ripper copycat murders, because John knew that they were getting close to catching him, so he killed himself. Alright, this is news. So even claiming that they did what Scotland Yard couldn't do 100 years earlier, and that was catching the Ripper. So many things wrong with that sentence. So Rick takes a look at his brother's dead body and then is immediately taken into custody by the police. Okay, whatever. Same time, a reporter spots him and mouths the words, "I knew it." Angrily gets in a car and drives away. And it's like, what does she know? Are the police lying about this guy being dead? Or has she never heard of twins before? But whatever. So now we're back at the police station. Rick informs the police that his brother was murdered. And how does he know that? How do you know that, Rick? How? How do you know that? Because he saw it in a dream. Sure, why not? And watching this in the interrogation room behind the two-way glass is the police psychiatrist, who's played by Robert Picardo, a hologram doc of DS9.
You're familiar, of course, with the emergency emergency medical holographic program.
And for a brief second, I was like, oh my god, this is just a holodeck program. But the psychiatrist, he's real. The movie's real. Everything's happening. The shrink, or the psychiatrist, I should say, quickly comes to the conclusion that he's lying or he killed his own brother. But luckily, through the power of hypnosis, he recalls the dream again, but this time with greater detail because he stares at a little white light hypnosis thing which convinces police of his innocence. And the hunt is on now for the real killer, which the police chief is rather reluctant to do because, eyewitnesses and all, but, supernatural twin powers.
Holy twin powers, activate!
They are pretty convincing. So the cops go looking into Rick's background and they find out that he was in a gang at one time. And to avoid jail, he went to the military. To do what? Oh my goodness. Military training. And guess who becomes suspect number 1? But he had a dream. Why aren't the cops understanding this? And it's all over the news, which Jack, the real killer, now knows John has a twin. And he's mad because, Rick doesn't think his brother was murdered and, superpower twin action.
Holy twin powers, activate!
So, Rick decides to look into things for himself because the cops aren't doing shit. But now the cops are pretty much tailing him everywhere anyway. So he shows up at the clinic where John used to work, immediately gets dissed by the absolutely not sinister looking Dr. Sidney, and he's told to get his info somewhere else. Get the hell out of here, pretty much. And poor Chris, the non-interest Chris, she sees an opportunity here. John may have shot her down, but this Rick guy has an airing, and he has pretty crazy dreams. Clearing his brother of murder, so she offers some help. They head to a bar that plays literally no music, barely has any conversation, but however, everyone is aware that the guy that just walked in is the twin brother of a possible serial killer, and they hate him. So, he splits. He can't handle the pressure of everyone staring at him in the utter silence of the bar. So he leaves Chris right there at the bar, and he heads to his brother's apartment to go through, see if he can find out any information there. And wouldn't you know it, the same box of photos that John looked through earlier holds the clue. Who would have known? It's the photographs again. But now Rick finds a picture.
Look at this photograph
Of John at work, a couple of his co-workers, and guess who is in the background? Yep, that's right, the man of Rick's dreams. So Rick then heads on over to Chris's house. I hope she made it home safe. And right before Rick gets there, though, we see that someone is peeking in her windows. Who is it? Who knows? We don't know. Chris, of course, knows the man in the picture that John has found, and bang, off they go to find him. And meanwhile, though, Jack, the killer, he's now at the clinic after hours, of course, because it's closed down and everything, and he's there to clean up his locker and all that. The place is pitch black, quiet, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, right behind him, Dr. Sidney, guy that's perfectly normal looking, is there. He's right behind him. He's startled. And, why is he there? Who knows? Hanging out in the dark, but whatever. But then on the way out, Doc says to Jack, hey man, I like your work. Now go have some fun. And he kind of retreats back into the shadows. So then, Chris and Rick, they finally make it over to Jack's place for a little break-in and entering, only to get busted by Jack himself, which results in a scuffle where you can see just how much James Spader trained for this role in this very Captain Kirk type karate chops to the neck and stuff like that. Rick overtakes Jack, obviously, because with perfect timing too, because right then the cops bust in, because obviously Chris called him earlier. So Rick returns to his job now as, he's a shoe store manager. However, the dreams, they haven't stopped. They haven't been mentioned since, when Rick was first introduced, but now they just don't stop. The things about the murders just don't add up for Rick. Maybe because they were never explained in the movie. What do I know? But anyway, after a quick midnight visit to the police psychiatrist again, and why not throw a quick hypnosis session in there that replays his brother's murder in his mind. He sees something he didn't see before. Well, obviously, John saw it as he was dying, and Rick, well, apparently stopped the tape and just never finished the scene. See, what we see is a pair of sneakers hidden in the corner, and in those sneakers, a sinister-looking doc. Oh my God. And so, out the door to track down Dr. Sidney. But where could he be? Well, obviously he's going after Chris. And it's perfectly obvious to Rick because that's where he heads. And manages to stop Dr. Sid just in time. And Rick also manages to kill the doc about 1 second before the police break down the door because obviously they knew where they were headed to. The movie ends with Chris and Rick in this weird embrace. Because right after the guy dies, the movie's over. They end in this weird embrace. They both kind of look like they were going to go in for this kiss. And they're like, no, I don't think so. And then the director was like, fuck it. Cut. Chris is going home alone. The credits roll, and we are treated to the same horrendous song as the opening credits. It's just awful. It's just like the 80s. Ugh, it's just awful. The movie is an hour and 36 minutes. It feels a lot like 2 hours minimum because it's a pretty short and simple story with a lot of areas that were just dragged out for timing reasons, I guess. Part of the reason was the score. It's, like I said, it's a very quiet movie. That weird scene with the bar and the quiet, it's just strange, but whatever. And the 80s score, like I said, it's not a Huey Lewis in the News type thing. It's more like a generic synth type music, and again, it's not in a cool Stranger Things kind of way. It does have a lot of twists and turns in it, but unfortunately you can see them coming a mile away, and the movie definitely has a straight to VHS quality about it. Not something you pay full price for at the theater. However, a rental, sure, why not? Anyway, that's pretty much Jack's Back in a nutshell. In a really, really fast nutshell. Check it out if you want. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. It's Spader. Anyway, this is Tim, the shitty movie reviewer. And I hope to catch you next time. Bye now.